What we're going to do now is look at disruptive technology and how it's driving the mining revolution, or as Sheila put it before, the second industrial revolution in that term. Our moderator for this session is Dr. Sonia Scarselli. Sonia is the Vice President of BHP Explore, and as she correctly said to me before, we were talking over there, she said, yes, Mike Henry's my boss. So, Sonia, would you please take to the podium and introduce your panel? Yep.
It's not working. Yeah, thanks. Thank you so much, Kevin. So I introduce my panel. If you please can come up. Yeah, anywhere you want. So today on our panel we have Robert Green, Dr. Robert Green. You just met him and heard about the spectral analysis. And we have Oscar Malpica, the CEO of Rockburst Technologies, Justin Bain, the CEO of 3M Tech, Warren Newfield, co-founder of Tau Capital, and Diane Khaled-Banker, the initiative leader and geothermal resources for the Saudi Geological Service. So welcome to the panelists today. So we're going to talk about the disruptive technologies and how those technologies are going to impact and influence the mineral industry. And each of our panelists are working a different aspect of those technologies. You're going to see technologies that they get adopted from other existing industries and new technologies that have been deployed for the mining industry itself. So maybe just first question I'm going to start with Oscar.
Sure.
If you think about some of the challenges that exist in mining today, and what are some of the new technologies that they can really disrupt the way we are doing mining, or at least some of the aspects of the value chain of mining?
Right. I guess traditionally mining has been a very conservative industry, very, how would I say in a nice way, very hesitant to really change something. If it works, don't touch it. So one aspect that my company, Rockburst Technology, is working on is the comminution. Comminution is a process where you essentially grind rock to liberate the minerals. That process alone takes 3 to 4% of the global electricity consumption. Let that sink in for a second. Clearly a super inefficient process. 95% of the energy that goes into comminution goes into heat. It doesn't do anything. So I think the industry right now is definitely at the cusp of a revolution of disrupting itself, and they're going to start where those low-hanging fruits really lie. In this case, again, an energy hog like comminution is a clear opportunity for innovation. In our case, we're developing a technology that is a gas-based technology, does not use water, does not use mechanical ways, does away with comminution media, and thus reduces energy by 50 to 80%. And actually, by the way, it doesn't need gravity to operate, so that could be another possibility of employing that same technology in space mining applications. I'll leave it at that.
No, thanks a lot. And clearly a new technology, new way to thinking about aspect of mining. And I want to take the same question to Khaled, that is looking at technology that already exists but can be applied in a different ways. How would you frame the same question from your new disruptive ideas?
Okay, thanks. Yeah, as you know that mining sector facing complex challenges, and we try to support sustainability of mining sector by decarbonizing the mining industry in future. So that we are looking for to accelerate renewables to help mining sector for decarbonizing in future in Saudi Arabia.
So, we look at the technologies as individual aspect of individual elements of the value chain, but there is also an interest and an aspect to take new technologies together, integrate for an integrated solution. So Justin, how do you think about the disruptive technology integration?
Yeah, well, our company 3ME Technology is very much focused on electrification, and for us, I guess, I often look to the on-road electrification market for some key learnings and trends, and I think McKinsey has the acronym ACE, for automation, connectivity, electrification, and shared mobility, all working together, and I guess collective supporting concepts out of that, and certainly seeing that. Now in mining, we're obviously focused on electrification, but with a digital system, then being able to more easily automate, but then requiring the connectivity and getting all the infrastructure in place to then actually get the data. Then you can start to build on that with the AI. And I think from a shared mobility perspective, we're sort of thinking that wasn't quite relevant, but once you've got automation, you can imagine a miner calling a vehicle like an Uber underground and hopping in and going to another part of the site, or that kind of swarm mining methodology, or that environment, the ant kind of swarm methodology, where you've got a number of smaller mining machines, operating, as part of the ecosystem.
I like the Uber. Can I call the Robert Uber? And maybe, Warren, a similar question to you as well. I know you're bringing existing technology from other industry into your business. So what that integration look like?
Sure. Unlike my co-panelists, we're in the mining development business, exploration, mining development. And the problem we have is to compress that timeline, because the longer it takes, the more expensive it gets. And our matrix for success is, what's your cost per pound discovered? So what we've tried to do is take existing technologies and innovate them. Just one practical example. The one project we have in our company, Talon Metals, it's a nickel sulfide mineralization, and to look through into the level of the mineralization, what's the most effective way to do that? And it's expensive to drill, so you have to have your hit rate improved dramatically, because it'll obviously drop your cost per pound discovered. So what we did in just one application, we did cross-hole seismic tomography, which is never applied on this type of mineralization. It was a risk, it cost us a lot of money, but it's improved our success rate now on holes drilled from hitting 50% of the time to 95% of the time. So compared to the previous operator, we now, in 1 year, delineated more massive sulfide than they did in the previous 17 years. And we've dropped our cost of exploration. It wasn't just attributable to this, there were other things we've done, but just integrating a series of processes that were more efficient and apply technologies that haven't previously been applied, we've dropped our cost of discovery by 95% per pound, and we've dramatically accelerated the timeline. So that's what we've done, using and applying technologies in a different way.
That's extremely interesting. Coming from the exploration part of the business, there's definitely a lot of opportunities there to leverage the technology and really bring it back into our assets as well. Maybe a little bit more from actually Robert and Khaled, if we can talk a little bit around the challenges that you are facing to take your technologies that are already existing. Geothermal has been well known for a long time, and spectral analysis as well. What are the challenges to take these technologies into the mining industry and get buy-in by the miners to leveraging those?
Okay. Right.
So I can begin. I think, again, it was mentioned, my colleague here, that there's a certain resistance to change and to trying something new. But if you can get past that, and there are, the spectroscopy technology is now being used to look at drill cores and do geochemistry very fast over kilometers of drill cores in ways you never could before, to make decisions about where you want to follow up. So maybe that complements something you said. Also, in an active pit, you can use spectroscopy to look at the rock wall and do geochemistry in seconds for that whole rock wall and know the distribution and how you want to mine that so that you have the right feedstock. I understand that having the right mix of feedstock makes all the difference in successfully extracting the minerals. So those are just a couple of quick examples that we have this new technology that uses light to do geochemistry in a way that we never could before. It's enabled by detectors that run at low temperatures, emit runs at minus 100 C, but we know how to do that. That's now cheap and easy in the 21st century. It was not possible before. So those are some examples that I would offer.
Also, I will, as my colleagues said, that we need to accelerate digital transformation in mining sector. For example, industrial Internet of Things automatically connect people with machines. And that will create an extensive network of interactions. And that will be help the mining sector for future, for more efficiency on productivity in operation.
Thank you. Maybe similar question, but to you, Oscar, because I know you run a startup. And so what are some of the challenges you are facing to actually bring your idea forward on the market?
Right, so I guess I'm the only startup here in this panel. Oh, okay, so consider yourself a startup. As a small guy, let me put it that way, we have to talk big, but we have to back up our claims with actual research and actual validation. However, to get to those validated points, you need money. And you need to be talking to the right individuals that believe that your technology could be transformational. I'll repeat, transformational, not incremental, especially for a startup like us. So the challenge is talking to the right individuals. It used to be the entrepreneurs, in other words, the guys that basically are the shakers and movers inside the big corporations like Manhattan and BHP and all those guys. Because the vast majority of people, they tend to say, yes, we like to innovate, but only a few of them really have the guts and the connection and the will and to be completely obsessed with it, that they are the ones that are going to make the change for you from inside. So identifying those people for small startups are basically the key challenge for us, because we need allies. I know they're out there, but it's hard sometimes to identify them.
Thanks. Justin, do you see the same situation, or you have faced different challenges?
Yeah, I think I'm sure every startup and I guess every business is faced with challenges, and certainly over the last couple of years, it's actually been COVID has obviously had a lot of challenges, but as a startup, I kind of felt level playing field for a while, guys. This is nice. Everyone's finding things a bit more challenging, business as usual. But yeah, certainly I think resilience, for startups is a key part, and having that that long-term patience and continuing to get those building blocks together until you hit that tipping point when things really start to gain momentum.
Thanks. Maybe a question for you, Warren. You talked about technologies that are already existing and deployed back into the mineral industry. What do you think this type of technology, how fast this type of technology can really disrupt the mineral industry? It can change our culture and our way of working.
Good. I'll just give another practical example. When you're permitting a mine, you really got to do an analysis of the deep water, the deep bedrock aquifer. And you've got to measure the flows of the aquifer, because obviously when it comes to design, that's very critical. There's something you normally put is called a VWP installation. Now, historically, those have been done. You need to drill quite a large core, which is expensive and time-consuming. And historically, they put metal rods. We figured on this particular property that we're working on, in order to have a really comprehensive hydrology study, we needed to do 67 holes. That would have cost us many, many, many millions of dollars. So it was actually $5 million budget that we got. So we said that's ridiculous, and the timeline was also very long. So what we did is, instead of using steel rods, we used fiber optic rods, which are 1 centimeter. So through one drill hole, you could go with a smaller core, size diameter hole, and you could put more rods. So we put in a third of the time, 67 monitoring points for a $500,000 budget compared to a $5 million budget. So that gave us much more data at a much lower cost and a much shorter time frame. So just a bit of innovation and rethinking the process through.
That's brilliant. Khaled, do you think that you can adopt some of those technologies as well on the geothermal?
Yes, talking about the decarbonization of mining sector, Saudi Geological Survey start exploration for looking for geological to get a clean base load resource to help mining sector and to help to support sustainability in mining.
Interesting. And Robert, I'm curious because you come from a very different industry, different sector. How do you find entering the mining sector and bringing your ideas to a very different community?
So it's very interesting. I do work with the U.S. Geological Survey, and they have a critical minerals list, which I think we've talked about here. So they're also becoming aware, different parts of the USGS, that spectroscopy could be a good way to look for critical minerals, and that may be something else that our data gets used for. So again, it's communicating, but another really important thing, you need to show people that it works. You need to be able to prove, you have to make a prediction like a scientist and say, I predict that mineral's there with spectroscopy, and someone has to check it and say, yeah, you're right. That gives you, once you have those case studies, and I think that across here, all of you have talked about the need to show that your innovation pays off, and for me, that turns out to be, and the information is accurate, then people begin to adopt it in the mining and the exploration industry. So that would be a way to get people to adopt, is having those example cases where you've shown it works.
I think it's very important. If you think about, sorry, this is not working. If you think about the investment that we're putting forward from a mining company, we need to understand that it's going to work. We don't have to have certainty, but in a certain way we need to understand that it could potentially work and how it would work. So very good point. Maybe a question that I ask to all of you, which is around enablers. If you think about your wish list, which one will be your main wish that you have, that you are asking, that can enable either your technology or your business?
I'm very fortunate. My wish list, a lot of it's been satisfied. 35 years ago, I started to dream to have something like this happen. So, but I am very interested in that this technology, my wish is that it be used to benefit our planet, including moving towards more efficient use for mining and maybe helping with those greenhouse gases. My wish is to make a positive contribution going forward for our planet and my family. I guess that I will leave. It's a big wish, but that's what I would offer.
I guess for me, as a small player in this large ecosystem, what I'm enjoying now, seeing and observing is this confluence of big, small, medium, research science, and everything in between towards one goal. And I think the kingdom had obviously the wisdom to have a single point of focus, 2030. Now the world has a 2050 net zero goal, and I think there is a collective effort towards that goal. And I guess in my wish list is that Rockburst Technologies can say slay 2% of the global electricity consumption via our systems. That would be a fantastic result for us.
pretty busy five years, scaling or delivering and scaling some of Australia's first battery electric vehicles, underground in both mining and defence. So my brain is still racking for what the wish list is, which is probably a good night's sleep. Yeah, certainly I think as a startup to scale up, the standard wish list of patient capital and good partners, of which I'm grateful to have. We've been very focused domestically in Australia, given the mining focus and defence focus. However, certainly excited by the wish list of future international scale up and impact.
Mine's a bit more commercial, in the sense that the world is facing a crisis in terms of the deficit of metals and critical minerals. And what you've seen in Saudi Arabia, to me, has been amazing, is that the government has actually understood that and has created a framework to address that. I've worked in 22 countries and developed 9 projects that, from early stage exploration right through to feasibility. And it's such a problem finding favorable jurisdictions that are open for business. And because capital at the end of the day is like water, it takes the path of least resistance. And there's governments globally now starting to realize, in the United States too, one of our projects was just given a $114 million grant by the Department of Energy, because they're realizing the problem that the world's facing, and certain countries are taking steps to address that. Hopefully more and more will do the same thing.
For me, this year will be the harvest year for the geothermal energy exploration works at Saudi Geological Survey, and I hope we success.
Thank you. I think I have time for our last question. No? Oh, perfect. We can keep going. Going back to some of the challenges that we talked about early on, the one thing that I'm really curious of, I know the challenges we are having on our sector and our company, and Warren, you talked a little bit about the environmental situation with countries, regulatory approval, and contracting and permitting. That's definitely a big one. But if you think about for your specific area and sector, what are some of the challenges you have faced and you think they are gonna remain for a little bit longer time? And what would you do to change it? What would you ask to overcome those challenges? Maybe we'll start, Khaled.
Yeah, as you know, that mining sector all over the world facing complex challenges from all directions, environmental and climate change pressures, also global skills shortage, and that these challenges are a priority for the long term for the sustainability of mining. Now you should looking for how to minimize these challenges to support the sustainability of mining.
I just want to add what Khalid said there. The biggest problem we also see is that young people are not coming into the industry, at least in most of the Western countries. I was told a number, I cannot verify it, but yesterday it was quite shocking to me, that last year Australia graduated 19 mine engineers. I mean, that is a frightening, when you think about it, where that's going to be in 5 years and 10 years. There's just no young people. So I think that's a big challenge that we're going to be facing. And one obviously has to be very responsible, but the permitting processes in some of jurisdictions are just becoming so unwieldy and difficult that as entrepreneurs, are you prepared to take the risk of working with good assets because of the permitting hurdles? So I'd say those are the two practical challenges we see that need to be addressed.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Warren, around the people and the talent. And having worked in defence, we used to have a saying, humans over hardware. And even with all the talk over the last couple of days around automation, electrification, all the buzzwords around AI and everything, we have to remember that it's still still people behind that are, monitoring, controlling, developing, supporting, and that we, need to maintain those fundamental skills as well for when technology itself is, disrupted or and the like. So I think, that is definitely a challenge. Although I'm very optimistic about, the next generation talent that's coming through in the areas that we're working in. Seeing fantastic. Tanya here in the audience, our business development manager. Grew up in Iraq. Came out to Australia. She's spoke yesterday on the Tech Talk. She's business, mechatronics, and absolutely doing a fantastic job. And I'm grateful to be surrounded by people smarter than me, like Tanya, and alongside people like Robert. Perhaps we need a Hollywood movie, starring Robert Greene with a interstellar soundtrack and the mining engineers, because to influence the next generation that solving problems and and saving the planet.
That's awesome. Add into the, I guess, inspiration or aspiration goals. You were asking about challenges, and we're in an innovation panel. So I guess my observation will go towards repeating what the chairman of Rio Tinto said yesterday. The challenge is falling back to short-termism. Thinking short-term will definitely affect our way to net zero 2050, 100%. The mining industry has, I think, we are at an inflection point where we could be the heroes to take that transition to green fully, to net zero fully. But if we revert our practices to short-term mindset, to gains that ROI for the next quarter or the next fiscal year, there's a pretty good chance that all this effort, all this wave of innovations just stop short of achieving the real potential. So that will be the challenge that I identify.
Remember, the question is, the challenge is, I think, as was also mentioned here, it's for me, it's working with other brilliant people. I'm deeply humbled that you think I'm doing well, but you should see the people I get to work with, and it's quite extraordinary. So it is the team. There was a picture in the video of more than 100 people, all of which got together to build that instrument, and it used metals, it used the things that the mining industry produces. So that's absolutely essential for technology to go forward. We need these minerals, but at the same time, we need the humans. As you said, we need the human capital, the talent. So helping make sure people get inspired to go into the science and the engineering and the math, that really is what we need. And the IT, the integration, the information technology, that's what we need to go forward, again, to go forward quickly, and also the view towards the long term. I agree with that completely.
I think all of you say there's some very important aspect of the challenge going forward. So we have a challenge that is to find, develop, and produce the critical resources for the energy transition. It's not a short-term challenge. We can't have a patchy short-term solution. But in my mind, coming from the sector, we also are at a pivot or a turning point that if we are not making today the commitment and the changes and bringing in truly innovation and true innovation into our way of doing business, we're not going to survive. That it's as an industry. We really needed to make the step forward. So I agree with all of that. Now, one of the things that I wanted to point out is the talent, though. We really struggle with talent and capabilities. We see a lot of young people that tend to go to the renewable energy and batteries and so on. But in the mining industry, where we would like to have a lot of fresh ideas and creativity, we see very few people coming through. It's not just Australia problem, it's North America, it's Europe, it's across board. Yeah, please.
I think the talent issue that you're mentioning, Sonia, also has to do with the narrative that has been ingrained.
Absolutely.
The mining narrative that has been ingrained in the psyche of everyone. But take a look at NASA. You inspire with those messages. You're looking at off-world challenges. We need something like that in mining. You can ask, why don't you join us to actually work in Olympic Dam? Okay, sure. But then the narrative doing the same thing would be, why don't you help us transition to net zero because we need more copper in the world and we have this challenge. Same job, different message.
No, absolutely true, and there is definitely part of our role to bring forward what's really why we need the resources, what's the importance of the resources, and have a better picture on how we're doing that to attract the talent and attract the next generation. So totally agree. So as a closing question, I really like to hear from all of you, what is exciting most of 2023 and looking forward, what's in front of you?
Yeah, I'll start with that question. That there's really a realization in where the planet's heading now. I think everybody understands the narrative now. That took a while, and there's a desire to take concrete steps to make it a reality by decarbonization, reducing emissions. It's really coming to fruition globally.
Yes, I say again that we should looking for decarbonization of mining sector in Arabia for future.
Thanks. Yeah, I think talking about narrative, I certainly felt that leaving a very interesting and engaging job in defence to do what 3ME Technology is doing was a once in a 100-year or once in a lifetime opportunity to contribute to the energy transition. And so I'm certainly excited to continue to do that in 2023. But also in terms of those once in a lifetime opportunities, I was talking to my wife on the way to the airport and trying to tell her about this amazing 170-kilometre skyrise, the NEOM and the line, and I think from a company that's been quite domestic focused in Australia, excited about the opportunity and the discussions that have been had over the last couple of days to make an impact on the international scale and hopefully support a once-in-a-lifetime project like the line.
Yeah, I guess I will just echo what Justin just said. Being a soldier in this long battle that now the whole humanity is facing, and knowing that our work at Rockburst Technology could transform the way the next generation, the generation coming, could have a better life because of the work that we're doing as an innovative company. That is just satisfies me, and I think I'm really, really looking forward, to have those conversations in 2023 with people that think alike.
Yeah, and for me, of course, 2023, we just got starting to image now in January, and we're going to get the map and work with others and have the mineralogy. But then the icing on the cake is we can see methane, and methane can be captured. And if you burn methane for power, CO2 is methane is 80 times stronger greenhouse gas than carbon dioxide. So if you can get those methane plumes and burn them to make energy, it's a win-win. You've made energy and you've reduced warming. And if we can control methane, we could take 0.3 degrees C off the current trend alone, and it's a short-lived gas. Methane only lasts 10 years, so if we control it now, in 10 years, we've done our job. CO2, it's a 100-year lifetime. So that's what I'm excited about, is we're gonna start mapping methane super emitters on the side with emit and sharing that globally for people to make decisions, hopefully good decisions, to turn that methane into energy and reduce global warming at the same time. So it's a win-win I'm very excited for in 2023.
That sounds excellent. Thank you very much to our panelists. Please an applause to all of them. And thanks a lot for sharing your innovation and technology. Looking forward to see you next year, maybe.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.